And you know what? I wanted you guys to see what it was like. The next person I interviewed was a guy named Ron Klein. Now, Ron Klein is an incredible inventor. And he invented many of the things that you use each and every day. And without him, gee, our lives would be completely different. And although he's not a household name, perhaps you might have seen this before. The old credit card magnetic strip. Imagine that, especially you women. And my wife, you know that credit card magnetic strip. Mine's the one that's worn out. But where would we be without such a device? Where would we be without such an invention? And I wanted to sit down with him and ask him face to face and say, how did you do it? How did you come up with this idea? Who here would have liked to have gone with me to meet Ron Klein, the guy who invented the magnetic strip? This is your opportunity. Ron Klein, come on out here, would you? Put your hands together. All right, thank you. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I believe that most of the women in the world love me, but I'm not sure about the guys.
Yeah. So the question I have is this. You always talk about invention and creation, of how you come up with it. You know, there's always a beginning, a middle, and the end. What is your solution, and how is it that you come up with these ideas and make them come to life?
Simple. I learned it in high school. They gave us all these critical word problems that had so much nonsense in the middle of it and all this superfluous information. And then I looked at the word problems and I said, well, geez, there's a beginning, and an end. And the beginning is what's given, and the end is what's the solution I'm looking for. Simple. And if you take a problem and simplify it, it becomes a challenge. And then there's a gift behind every challenge, and that's the answer.
But you don't get caught up in the middle part, the minutia. Like I said, the skier going down the hill. You don't focus on the black ice and the moguls. You just focus on the solution at the end of the day.
Exactly.
Now, what about stinking thinking of people coming in saying, that's a crazy idea. That'll never work. How do you handle that?
I love it. I love it. When they say I can't do it, I simplify it and say, there's nothing stopping me. There's nothing that you can't do. If you have a can-do attitude and that positive thinking, every challenge can be solved easily.
Now, anyone here has ever bought a house before, you probably bought it from a real estate agent, and they found that property and located it on something called the MLS, which is the Multiple Listing Service, another invention by Ron Klein.
Simple. Very simple.
Now,
the women love me.
And then what else did you do for the New York Stock Exchange?
Well, that was interesting. I had some special equipment that the exchange needed, and it got me into the exchange, and I sold this equipment to them, and I provided maintenance for their trading floor expansion. And while I was there, I discovered something very simple, that this institution functioned on inertia, very similar to the government. And I figured there's all these reams of paper on the floor. This is a place that just needs automation. And while I was looking around, I discovered that the bond trading floor was a place where they traded bonds in an auction crowd. Well, I figured, why are they doing that? These were corporate listed bonds. Why don't they trade it? And why don't they use monitors like in the equity system? And I went to the exchange and I said, I can simplify this thing. I can automate this and really help out. And they said, no, we've been doing it like this for 200 years and we're going to continue to do it. So I said, okay, how about if I build a little system, a prototype, will you give me a license to provide this as a vendor? And they thought I was crazy. And I said, well, just do it. So I built a system, and I figured, now what am I going to do? How am I going to sell this? How am I going to market it? The traders have 30 seconds in the morning to answer the phone, and if they give you an answer, if you're not there buying, forget it. So I took the system and gave it to the leading trader on Wall Street in the largest firm. And I said, this is free for 30 days. Use this, and I'm not giving it to anyone else. And what did he do? He topped every other trader's bid on the auction floor, and he topped their bids and won every bond he could possibly win. His phone rang off the hook. And they said, how are you doing this? And he said, oh, well, you need one of those little machines that General Associates, that was the name of the company at the time, handles this. And my phone rang off the hook. Within 3 weeks, I had 60% of the Wall Street market. Stickability.
Well, here's the beautiful part about that. How much did you sell each person to join your club to get one of those boxes?
Well, this was the fat times on Wall Street. And I figured, okay, this is really going to make things happen. So I said, I'm going to form a club, and every trader has to pay me $10,000 to join my club. Piece of cake. They can make that in a day. And then I found this little box that I built, which was nothing but a filter, because I would run the New York Stock Exchange hose into every Wall Street office. And then I'd give them this little filter box, and the filter would filter out the bonds that they were interested in. Well, the box cost me $100 to build. And I figured, I've got to come up with a price. So my strategic plan put a lot of thought into it, and I charged them $300 a month to rent the box from me. And it lasted about a quarter of a century.
Talk about residual income, right? And here's the final question, and we got to move on, is the magnetic strip. I mean, the bottom line is every time we go and we zap it, why in the world we got to pull that little sucker through that thing so fast?
Simple. Well, first I came up with the idea because every month the credit card companies would provide this long list of negative account numbers to the merchants. And they said, well, this really delays the time and delays the purchase of a sale. So I said, well, that's a simple project. I'll just take all that information, put it into some large memory device, put a keypad down at the point of sale, and the merchant keys in the number, and if the number didn't come up on the memory system, they were good to go. But then I had to come up with some smarts. We had to put some smarts in that plastic, that little piece of plastic, because it just had the embossed number on it. And right around that time, reel-to-reel tape recorders came out. And I figured, geez, if I could take a piece of that tape and record the number on it and paste it on the back of the credit card and then build a little device that mimicked a tape recorder. So you put the card in slow and you pull it out rapidly, because then it could look just like a tape recorder. Remember on the reel-to-reels, those that had reel-to-reels, if you would drag the reel, it would sound a real draggy voice. And then if you would speed it up, it sounded like Mickey Mouse. Well, the principle is, and this is why you put it in slow and pull it out rapidly, I want it to look like a tape recorder. And that was the invention of the magnetic strip.
Now, and now for the rest of your life, when someone uses that, you're going to go, I know how that was done, right? And that's the coolest thing about it. Did you have any last thing you want to share?
Stickability. That's important, okay? And what you do is you have to approach everything with a very positive attitude. There's nothing that can't be done. And age is not a barrier either. Because one of my challenging things now is I have an inoperable spine condition, but yet I'm a senior Olympian and I ride a bicycle 30 miles a day to relieve me of pain. And I happen to be a gold medalist. It works.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ron Klein. And it just amazed me. No matter where I go, I got an opportunity to sit with some of the greatest icons on this planet. And I kept asking people over and over who wants to play. By the way, he'll have a table tonight at dinner, so the first people that get in there will have an opportunity to sit. If you got an idea, make sure you get that.